You're never gonna believe what happened at my house. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Salty Roots. My name is Joe. Thanks for checking out another video. Disaster has struck at our house here in Fishers, Indiana, completely out of nowhere. I was actually filming another video that you'll see here soon. I was in the process of putting some new lights on the Predator tank. I was out in the garage, and as you'll see in that upcoming video, cutting some wood to mount these lights on, and I pulled the trigger on the miter saw. Kylie came out and said, hey, lights just went down, and the rest went downhill from there, as you will see in this upcoming video. So, electric problem that we had to go through. It was a very, very long few days. And so check it out. Hopefully you can take something away from this. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. As always, I really appreciate it, and see what happened to us in the last few days. Crisis mode. In the middle of putting these new lights on the Predator tank, the electric started going haywire all throughout the house. My wife came down, thought the kids did something. Everything was flashing, flickering. Most of the house was fine. It was just this room and like our range and stuff was flickering and stuff. So once we sure the girls were okay, started to assess the situation. Still have no idea what's going on, but first guess is there's way too much power being drawn from this room, and it was just kind of a ticking time bomb. It seems as though when I turn the Red Sea Reefer 350 that does have the most gear on it completely off, things come back to normal. So I don't know, as you saw in the last video, it's all cleared out. There's no corals in there, it's just a couple of fish. Might be the end of the Red Sea Reefer. I don't really want to install new electric down here and go through all of that money. Not really in the budget right now by any means. So now, I'm gonna have to get these fish out of here, put them over there, get everything restarted. Go from there. I'm not sure. It's crazy. So as soon as I ran a cord from the other room, everything kicked back on. I was able to plug in things one by one with no problem. As I unplugged things from the Red Sea Reefer 350 and tried to, unplug something here, plug something in there, I could tell they were trying to turn on like the pumps over here, but just weren't getting enough power. So it just seemed to be way overloaded. So again, I went ahead, this is completely shut down. There's no power here. And then I ran this tank, essentially is now being powered from a different outlet, and then the Predator tank was able to fire up and is going again now. So I have to figure something else out. It definitely appears as though I'm not going to be able to run this tank, at least in this room. Just does not seem as though that's going to be an option. It's just way too much power. So we may be down to the 125 in the Predator tank. Okay, so an update. I actually have all the tanks running again. Things seem to be okay. The tanks are all running. I've been unplugging things, plugging things back in. I noticed something funny over there by the water softener. The digital display was not on, but the light on the power strip, it's one that has the light up button. The light was on, and my TV up there, which is connected through all of that, wasn't working. And so I unplugged things, plugged it back in, and I came to the conclusion that it was that power strip that was causing some problems. So I switched off the power strip, the TV came on, everything was fine. But then also, when I went to plug the fridge, right, over here, this silver fridge, when I went to plug that back in, now that it was working, everything started to dim again. And fridges are notorious for pulling a lot of electricity, so I think that may actually be the problem, is the fridge. Since I've left it unplugged and plugged everything back in, it seems to be fine. Again, if I plug the fridge in, things go down. So I think the fridge is pulling too much electricity in here. And I hope that I can just remove the fridge and still run everything safely. I'll consult with some experts, of course, but just gonna keep an eye on it. Hopefully everything will be fine, and we can still keep the Red Sea Reefer 350 up and running. I guess. optimistically speaking, it's somewhat of a good time for this to happen. If there was a problem, for me to get it figured out while there's nothing in there. So we'll see. I may still end up shutting it down. I just have to figure it out. I just went to get a cooler to take the stuff out of this fridge, and I noticed the oven was off again, and the digital display on the microwave was real dim. And Kylie kept telling me when I would shut this system off, that stuff would turn back on. So I'm back to thinking this is a problem. I'm gonna have to shut it down. So I'm gonna unplug it now, run up there and see if everything turns back on. If so, pretty sure we have an issue with this tank. Let's go ahead and shut it down. Yep, everything turned back on upstairs. So this is clearly an issue. It's drawing way too much power from the house. I don't have this set up correctly. That's totally my fault. If I'm gonna have this much electricity in this room and running this many systems, I absolutely should have brought an electrician in, made sure I wasn't running everything off of like one circuit. So lesson learned. For now, at least, it seems like the Predator tank and the 125 are gonna be okay. And figure out what I'm gonna do with this. So it is almost 1:30 in the morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning. And as you can see, I've had to rig something up here. Multiple extension cords in the dark. Running upstairs to other outlets because apparently certain the outlets in the basement are the root cause of whatever this problem is. But this has been an absolute disaster, nightmare situation. You always wish you had a battery backup when something like this happens, but in Indiana, we don't really lose power often. This isn't due to weather or anything like that. I think it's electrical in our house. But these are the things that'll take out your entire livestock, so it's going in and out. I've been up, obviously it's almost 1:30 in the morning, monitoring it, trying to plug it into different outlets. It comes on for a fair amount of time, then tends to kick off after a while. So I'm only supposed to get down to like 75 tonight outside. So worst case scenario, if the power shuts off, they'll stay warm enough to keep everything alive. Hopefully the electrician can get here tomorrow for sure, because again, this is a disaster. Little powerhouse unit there doesn't work. Obviously tried using that, but no luck. Just getting power from upstairs, and hopefully everyone makes it through the night. This is the next morning. Everything made it through the night. Looks like fish are okay. Temperature dipped slightly, but house is still surging all the way from the basement to the second story. So something's really wrong with the electric. I've called probably 30 places today. Somebody's supposed to be out, or at least give me a call back here shortly, and this company thinks they can get out here today. So I will be looking into battery backups after this mess, but at least everyone is still alive, and hopefully we'll have this fixed today. Had an electrician stop by and check out our box. He said everything looks normal. All the wires seem to be attached correctly. There's no spots that indicate anything was burning. And so he had said he doesn't believe there's an immediate emergency. He was just a nice guy that happened to be in the area that was available to stop by. Actually didn't have his work truck, so he didn't have any tools. He just wanted to stop by since we thought it was an emergency to make sure everything was okay. So that being said, we borrowed a multimeter from a neighbor, and when he started to use the multimeter and put it up to all of these things, he had said the numbers he was getting were pretty crazy. So he had said he wasn't familiar with that multimeter. It could be the multimeter, but if his readings were correct, he said it's a utility problem, and that there's not nearly enough power actually coming into the box, and so contact the utility company to come out and check out this box here. But because it's locked there, he can't take that off, because that'll tell the utility company somebody messed with it, and he doesn't want to get into that. So again, just a nice guy that stopped by and told us that there's no immediate danger for the house, but I'm of course still worried about the fish as the power keeps cutting out down there. So next thing, we were able to get a hold of somebody else who's going to come by with tools from a different company and hopefully be able to get this fixed. In a super ideal world, I'll actually add a circuit here, and that circuit will be solely for the fish tanks, which would be amazing, because then I could definitely run all 3 tanks still if I had a circuit dedicated just to the tanks. So we'll see what this next guy has to say. So here's where we're at, night 2. It's about 10:30 at night. This is Sunday evening. Girls went to my parents' house because it's so hot as heat rises, of course, upstairs. However, we did find the upstairs outlets, for whatever reason, seem to be pulling the most power. And so current situation, we had a second electrician come out, and he essentially kind of said the same thing as the first guy. He wasn't able to do anything tonight, but he would be back tomorrow to get all of this squared away and fixed. He just said that a lot of this is just wired incorrectly in the first place, so multiple extension lines coming out of these outlets up here. He's run down. So still in the dark, but I was able to get those extension cords to run all the way down and get what I think is the most essential components of each tank going, which would be heat and oxygen. So running a simple air pump here, and have that with the bubbler there, getting oxygen in the tank. I went and got a 50 watt small heater because even the 100 watt was too strong for the lack of electricity we were getting. So the 50 watt is able to at least stay on and maintain it in at least, I think, a livable level. Hard to see because of the glare, but they have heat, they have oxygen, should be good. They will be out tomorrow to fix it. So this tank is covered with glass, and so it's holding the heat in really well, and it's a really hot night. So unfortunately for us, it's a hot night, but fortunately for the tanks, I don't have to worry too much about the heat. So we have heat, we have oxygen, should be good for the evening. So it is Monday afternoon, right before 12 o'clock. And as of now, all the power is off in the house as the utility company is here working on the problem. He says that he thinks we've lost a neutral, which may not have been anything, from this fish room. It's more likely a line that was cut. We have had quite a bit of construction in the neighborhood, running, lines for the internet, and it's just been a mess. The individual from the utility company said they've cut like 400 lines since they've been running all of this new internet, and so he's working on it now, and we have to have the power off for a little bit. Hopefully this is going to be figured out today. Again, we have the utility company here now, an electrician coming later. He had also said the electrician came downstairs and said a lot of this wiring essentially he had said that the wiring is running from the lights into the outlets, which is a cheap and easy way to do it, but not the best way at all, which is why when we plug things in, our lights flicker. And so we're probably going to get some rewiring done, and then hopefully get a circuit ran down to this fish room. And if I can do that and it's all in good shape and not pulling too much, based on the electrician's advice, I can still have all 3 tanks running. If he says it's too much, I'll continue to shut this tank down and just have these 2. So we'll see. Hopefully this is all taken care of by the end of the day today. our temporary setup until they can bore a line. All the way over there on the other side of the truck, under the driveway, over to here. And so until they can do that, they just have this to help us to make sure we have power. Another part of the issue is the electrician let me know that we don't have any grounding rods. There should be 2 8-foot rods that go down into the ground that do just that, ground the electricity, and those are missing. So we definitely need to get those added. He had said we need to make sure that this box is secured to the wall. He can't open it because that's what these are actually for. That's why the utility companies put these on here, to know if somebody has messed with anything here. And so he can't take those off without the utility company here, but he needs to open this box up and take a look and make sure everything is secured there. He said he may need to replace this box, which of course is going to be expensive, but his hope, sincere hope, is to be able to secure it to the wall and just repair it without having to replace it. All right, so essentially how this works, at least at a dumbed down version that I could understand, the electrician was walking me through some of this panel. And so, this is a 200 amp panel. And so this top breaker up here, this is the main breaker that shuts all the power off. He had said, think of it like this: 50, 50, 50, 50. That's 200 amps that you have power to in your house. He said, if this ever trips the whole thing by itself, you have a major issue. Other than that, these will trip individually underneath. And so if I were wanting to add another circuit downstairs, I have this opening here. In my head, I was thinking they had to add this big giant block of something here. He had said that, no, actually that's what each of these little squares are for, right? So he would take one of these out. He would put in another breaker or another circuit just like this. He would put one here. He would then wire that all the way down to the basement. Okay, so the electrician just left. Got all kinds of information. I'm certainly not an electrician. I try to do as much home renovation myself as I can. I've learned a lot. Electricity is just one thing I choose to never really mess with. It's way too dangerous. And yeah, he just, again, taught me all kinds of stuff, at least at a level that I could understand it. And so ultimately, in terms of running a circuit down to this room, I don't think it'll be a big surprise. He had pretty much said that he would recommend it if it was his house, that he would run that circuit here. However, he did not sound overly concerned with my setup, which is pretty shocking. I have between all of these tanks a lot of electric and a lot of things plugged in. So he had said he doesn't think it's going to pull too much electric, honestly. He said I may be riding the line, but hearing him out, it sounds as though I definitely should not restart this tank with all the equipment on it without running that additional circuit. The additional circuit, he had said, would be about $1,000 extra, and that's only because we're having them do all kinds of other work where the wiring is just done incorrectly. We're missing GFCIs, we're missing, there's just other things, that need to be corrected. Small things, but all added up when you're talking about putting those grounding rods in, and a couple of other changes that he has to do. It's pretty expensive. And so with all that other work, they're essentially discounting running a circuit down here, which would be an additional $1,000. He had said alone it's probably going to be $1,800 to $2,000, just depends. And that's not to say that that's how much it's going to be for you to run a circuit down to your fish room if you have one. In our case, one of the problems is, as you can see above me, the beams are running this way, and he needs to run the wires this way. And so he had said if the beams above my head were running this way, he could run wires, along the beams, and it'd be easy. However, with them running this way, he has to drill holes through each and every one of the wires. And you can even see that up here. See how they had to drill a hole to run wires like that? So he would have to do the same thing down here to get that all the way down and run essentially another circuit here. Again, it would be awesome. He says he recommends it. It's expensive. It's a lot of work. He thinks that I can, he thinks that I'll be okay with what I have down here, especially if I'm not restarting this tank. So all things considered, other house projects we have going on, not to mention, or one big one being our siding, just don't think that's going to be in the cards. You know, he had said the other way that you can watch this is if you have the GFCI properly, which I have one back there, but he checked it and said it's not wired correctly, of course, so he's gonna get that fixed. But if that's popping, obviously, you know you have too much electricity. So he had said that's another way you can kind of monitor that. You know, otherwise, he's going to have to go through and check every single piece of equipment, add up all of the wattage, convert that over to the amps, and see how much it's pulling to be able to give me an answer. And so, that being said, again, super nice guy. He was really educating me on a lot of things. And so, you know, I had said, there's a lot of things plugged in down here, but I don't believe a lot of it's pulling a ton of electricity, to be honest with you. And, you know, one of the things that I'm most worried about would be, you know, lights. Lights are obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, I thought, you know, these lights are going to be pulling a ton of electric. And so he shared something with me that I wanted to share with you that I think is pretty cool, simple trick. A lot of you probably already know this. It seems relatively obvious after hearing him explain it. But we looked up the Hydra 32s on the bulk resupply website to see what the wattage is on one of those. And so the wattage on one of these is 90 watts. And I believe that's maximum. It can pull up to 90 watts, but whatever, take 90 for example. And what you want to do is divide that by 120 and then multiply that by how many lights you have. And so this came out to around like 2 or so watts is what I'm actually pulling from the lights. And so it's not that much. Like I had said, showed, you know, out in the garage, it's 200 amps that you have for the whole house. And so all 3 of those lights are only 2 of those. So it's not that much, especially if it's only your only tank. But I thought that was kind of cool. That's how you calculate that. Okay, so all of that being said, you know, I think I will continue to run, well, I know I'll continue to run this tank. I'll run the Predator tank. And I think we have seen the end of the Red Sea Reefer 350. Just again, don't have it in the funds right now to run that additional circuit down here. And I could probably get away with running the tank, but hearing him say, you know, I would really be kind of walking that fine edge of too much electric is just not worth it, especially with our girls and just want everything to be safe. It's just too much, I think, right now. So the good news is I get to use all of the Trident, all of the Neptune family, the Trident, the Dose, the Core Pump, the Apex, of course. All of that can now go over to this tank, as well as some of the rock. And so as I mentioned in previous videos, you know, there's not much rock here. And so if this is going to be my primary tank, I want it to be a lot more technology forward. So I'm going to put all the Apex and Neptune systems on here. I'll slide these rocks over, open up some space, add some of that rock here. And then, you know, we'll probably put the Red Sea Reefer 350 up for sale. We'll see what the future holds. Who knows, but that's where we are today.